The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Stephen Jackson with Imprintables Warehouse. Thank you for coming by and spending some time with us. And today we're going to go over Corel Draw, show you tips, tricks, and shortcuts, and how to make it work a little bit better for you and get the most out of your Corel experience. Make you a little bit more money in the process too, hopefully. So we'll go on to the next slide here. And we're going to start off today's webinar with all of the poll questions right off the bat and run through them. So we've got 4 different poll questions, and it gets me a little bit more information about who's out there, what you guys are doing right now, and how Corel can be used for you. So we'll have the first poll question come up. How long have you been in the garment industry? You're just going to select one. This is to get an idea of your experience level and what's going on in your individual shop. And we'll give it a few seconds here, and it only takes a little bit for it to collect all the poll results. And it looks like they should be coming up right now. All right, we've got 24% of 1 to 2 years, 34% 2 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years is 17%, and 10 or more are 24%. So it looks like the bulk of you are in the 2 to 5 year range. I can tell you, my wife and I have our own shop, and we're just past that. We are almost to the 7-year mark. So it's that golden mark of 5, which is supposed to be the one to get you past it and say you're viable in the industry. So we've got the next one coming up. How many employees do you have that use Corel Draw? I'm going to show you some tools here when we get into the workspace itself and how you can set up your workspace and your shortcut keys and everything. If you've got more than one employee or more than one computer using Corel, nothing worse than coming back and going over to another computer and the shortcuts or keystrokes you've set up aren't there. And we can show you how to save that workspace and go over to another computer. So 1 to 2 came in at 88%, 2 to 5 at 9%, none in the 5 to 10, that's interesting, and then a few with a 10 or more. So we'll show you how, even if you only have 1 employee or 2 that are using it, you might have multiple computers it's on. So we'll show you how to save that workspace and make it go to another computer. So the next one should be coming up here any second. And this next poll question, which of the following equipment do you use Corel Draw most for? It also helps me to gain a little bit of knowledge on what you guys are doing in the industry so that for future videos and webinars we can slant the training to that specific area. So if 90% of you are using a cutter plotter, well, obviously we need to show features in the software that apply more to that. So we should have that one coming up real quick here. And as I suspected, the vast majority are the cutter plotter. And then the next largest one on there looks like silk screening. I did have a couple emailed questions to me about halftones, which we're not going to get into today, but I may look into doing some color separation halftone training on Corel in the future for those in the silk screening area. Direct to garment 14%, large format printer 8%, and embroidery 11%. So, and last but not least, one last poll question. I appreciate you guys giving me all this input. It helps us out quite a bit. And this one should help you guys out. What areas would you like to see in future webinars and videos? This poll question is directly related to us being able to provide better training for you and get the topics out there that you guys are really looking for. So this one's all about you guys. Almost there. And now the poll results should be coming up. Graphics training. Okay, that's well, it would make sense. Most of you here for that. So it looks like closely followed by application training, and then material and business and social media training. Remember that all of these webinars are online after the webinar at greatgarmentgraphics.com, and you can go take a look at them. And several people emailed me after the last Corel Draw webinar and said that they had gone to the Great Garment Graphics website and reviewed it a couple times and to see what was going on and kind of refresh themselves from what they learned in the training. So the first thing we're going to come up here, the first slide, we're going to talk about keystroke shortcuts. I'm a huge fan of keystroke shortcuts. You probably use them all the time without realizing it. You'll be working in, say, Microsoft Word or anything like that, and the cut and paste functions, being able to press down Control and C to copy and Control and V to paste, very similar in Corel in that those are actually the exact keystrokes that you would use for there, but you can also, there's keystrokes for almost everything. And instead of opening up a file menu and going to that particular drop down and selecting it and then going through the functions, you can speed things up tremendously by learning the keystrokes and becoming efficient in those. We're also going to show you how to set up a custom keystroke combination and then save the workspace. So I'm going to jump over to Corel now, and we're going to look at some keystroke combinations. If I've got this here, I've got a circle in there, and I'm going to switch over to, let me switch my pointer here. I've got to get out of that spotlight, normal pointer. So I'll make a couple more shapes here on the screen, a couple squares, and one more circle. I've got a bunch of different objects on here, and we'll use those in just a second. A lot of times people ask me about keystrokes and they say, well, where can I find them? The easiest way to find your keystrokes is anytime I'm working with something. If I've got this square here and this rectangle here selected, and I want to arrange these, I want them to be centered, I can go up to my Arrange and then Align and Distribute. And here I've got, I can align them to the right or to the left. I can do centers vertically, but you notice that there's the C right there. That C key, or the E key for horizontally, let's try just pressing those. So I'll get out of that screen altogether, out of that drop-down menu, and if I hit E, now they're centered horizontally. If I were to take these two, take this one here and this one here and have the circle there, I have three different, and they're not aligned vertically. I can actually align all of these vertically by pressing the C key. And it speeds things up for me in production when I'm trying to align text and objects, if I learn these different shortcut keys. So you can see very quickly I can learn a couple of shortcut keys by just taking a look, and when I went to the Align and Distribute, they're labeled right here. I've got all the different shortcut keys and what they are. If I were going to do cut and paste, I can go to Copy, it's Control-C, and then Paste, Control-V, so I can see all those. So that's one way you can find the different keystrokes in here and the shortcuts. Or there's another way we can find if I wanted to get the whole chart. If you bought your Corel Draw and you had the physical copy mailed to you, or you bought it in a store, inside that packet it generally has a fold-out booklet, or sometimes they had a keyboard overlay in older versions of it that had the different keystroke and shortcuts in there. Well, we can also print them out ourselves. We can go to Customization, Tools, Customization. I'll let this open up. And under the Commands portion, we've got our Workspace drop-down. We open that up, then there's Customization and Commands right here. Well, once I've hit Commands, I've got the different types of commands I can work with, the different menus, say like File, Edit, View, or I can go right over to my shortcut keys, and then down here where it says View All, I click on that, and it'll open up a little window that has all of the shortcut keys. So I can open this up wider, and you can see the description of it, the actual keystroke, what it does, the command it is there, in the table that it falls under, where it's main or text editing or anything like that. We can even print this whole table so you have a reference chart while you're getting used to it, and you can export it to a comma-separated value file so that you could have that to save in another format if you needed it. So there's a few different ways to get to the keystrokes and learn them. Once you've learned them and start using them all the time, you're going to speed up everything you do inside Corel tremendously. Now, what if there wasn't a keystroke assigned to something. One thing I do a lot, and the number one use for Corel that everyone in the poll hit on was for CAD cutting. Or we want to look at that wireframe view. We want to see what is behind everything. So if I had, let me cancel on this so we can get a graphic changed around here a little bit. If I have those two circles and the two ellipses in the middle here, and my middle ellipse is red, and my outer ellipse here is blue, if the red, we're going to arrange it, and again I could use keystrokes. I can arrange it and go to back of the page or back of the layer, shift and page down. So I'll do that. I'll hold down my shift key and I'll hit page down, and now it's to the back of the page. It's behind that. If I were going to send this to the cutter, I would want to see where my actual cut lines are. Say I'm using a GX24. The GX24 will only see what's in wireframe mode of the graphics that we see here. So to be able to tell what's behind this blue circle here, this ellipse, I could go to View, and I could go to Wireframe, or Simple Wireframe, either one. And now I can see exactly what my plotter cutter is going to see when I send the graphics over to it. And with most cutters, they've got an interface that automatically does this for you. But to save time, instead of sending it over there and seeing if I've got my cut paths where I want them, that I don't have any intersections that are going to mess up my design or anything, I find it easier to be able to look at wireframe and then go back to my enhanced view. Well, you could see I could go to the drop-down menus like we just did there, and I could go back to enhanced, or you could see that Alt-Q and Alt-W that were there. Those aren't the defaults. Those don't come in Corel that way. I've set them up that way. So let me show you how to set it up yourself. We'll go again to our tools and into customization. I'm going to go to those commands. And now I'm going to go to the drop-down menu that I would normally go to get to the command I'm trying to change. In this instance, it was under View. So I'll use this drop-down menu, and I'm going to go to the View section. And once I'm at View, I've got all these different commands here that are normally underneath that View drop-down menu. And the two that I was looking at was Simple Wireframe. So I'll roll on down to Simple Wireframe here. And when I click on Simple Wireframe and go over to the shortcut key, you can see it has Alt-Q assigned to it. Normally that wouldn't be there, so I'll delete that. So we're back to where most of you out there will be, that there's no shortcut key assigned to this. So what I'll do with that now is I'll assign a shortcut key. I click inside the area where it says New Shortcut Key, and then I'll simply hold down the Alt key and the Q, and it registered that I pressed down Alt and Q together. That's my new shortcut key for it. And I can assign it to this. When I click on the assign, it tells me that it's a shortcut key right there. Now, if I'd done a shortcut key that was already assigned to something, say I did Alt and W, you can see it already tells me it's currently assigned to the enhanced key, to switching back my view to enhanced mode. So I've got a conflict there. So Corel will take a look at that and tell you if you have a conflict within the software for the shortcut key you're trying to assign. If there's a function that you do all the time and you're tired of going through the drop-down menus and going to sub-menus and into there to get to it, assigning these shortcut keys is going to save you tons and tons of time, and it makes your life much easier while working through Corel. So, and I went backspace too many times there, and it came up and recognized I did backspace. So once I've got Alt-Q there, I need to hit OK, and that will save that command to it. So once I click on OK, now I can do my Alt-Q. I can see everything in wireframe mode, so I can see if I have any intersections or anything that's going to cause an issue on my plotter cutter. And I can click on Alt-W, and I can go back to my enhanced view and see all my colors and how I'm separating it. So very powerful to be able to make up your custom keystrokes and do it yourself. And once you've got everything set, you've got your different dockers open. I like to have my object properties and my color docker, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit, and all these other dockers over here that we're going to go through, the bitmap color mask. And I've done that simply through going Windows and into my dockers and selecting which ones I want and where I want them placed. So I've got this workspace. This is great for me. I love the way it's set up. I'm very comfortable with it, and I want to be able to go to computer to computer to computer in my shop. And the place that I work right now even from where I'm sitting, I can see 6 different computers, and all of them have Corel Draw on it. If I were to go to another computer and those shortcut keys that I had set up or the different Docker windows weren't there, it would make my life more difficult. I would have to go through the submenus and drop downs and everything else and find that again, or go through setting it up. But there's an easier way. Let's go back to our tools and to customization and to Workspace up at the top. Now, Workspace up at the top, I can define a new workspace. Once I've got this workspace set up where I want it, I could call it, give it a new one, and I'll call this Steven. And that's my workspace. And I'm going to base it on the Apparel Designer because that's the one that I have going on right now. Or I could go from the default workspace or wherever you're at that current time. And I can say this is, I give it a little bit of a description. This is the default graphic editing space. And that way I have a little bit of a description to it. And I'll set it as the current workspace that I'm working in. When I click on OK after this, you'll see it added in my workspace list. Give it a second to process. There it is. It shows it as my workspace. I can even select workspace as startup. If I click on this one, every time I start up Corel, it'll give me the option out of the whole list of workspaces that I can choose from. Typically, I don't check that. I leave it where I want to be on the Steven one. And now say I want to send this to the other computers. Well, I could export this file, and when it comes up under the export function, I'll select all the different things. I want all the Dockers, the menus, the shortcut keys, the status bar, so you can do part of it or all of it. You can select all of it to send, and I can either save this or you can actually email it to whatever other computer you have. So say I'm trying to work in a workspace and I know I'm going to be going to on-site at somebody else's workshop to help them out with Corel, do some training on-site with them. I can email the workspace there so that when I get there, I don't have to go through all the setup of the workspace again. They've already got it there. I can import it into Corel, which I would simply, once I've received that file, I go to import, I tell it where that file is at, and bring it in. And then it'll add that workspace into my list here, and I can switch over to it. So it's a great way to get your workspace all set up and share it between a whole bunch of computers and have everything set the way you want it to. So while that's canceling out there, we're going to go back over to our slides here real quick. So those are our keystroke shortcuts, and showed you how to set up some custom ones and how to find all your keystroke shortcuts and how to save and export the workspace for other computers. The next thing we're going to take a look at are the different alignment tools that are available within Corel. I'm going to show you the different ways to access those different alignment tools, talk about some of those keystroke shortcuts, which we already covered a little bit, and then the distribution tools and the difference between grouped and ungrouped objects. So we're going to jump back into Corel. And again, I've got my different objects here. And with those different objects, I've got a couple ellipses, a couple square and a rectangle there, and I can take these different objects and I need to align them. Say I want to do the center, so I can hold down my Shift key and select both of these two, the square and the rectangle, and I can use those shortcut keys that we had before. I could press the E key and that brings the two of those together on the horizontal axis. I could do the C key, which brings them on the vertical axis, snaps them right to each other. I can, let's make this a little bit bigger so you can see this one better. If I select both of them, I can also draw the marquee around them to select both of those. If I press my R key, it's going to align them to the right. So you can see those shortcut keys that we looked at before. Well, there's another spot that I can do my aligning and distributing. So let's move one of these out because I'm going to distribute all of this in a line. And we'll hit F4, another one of my favorite shortcut keys that expands out the view so that all the objects that are on my workspace are viewable at the same time. So I look at all these here and say I want to distribute them. I want to make sure that there's the same exact space in between each one of these objects on there. So I can select all of them by just drawing a marquee tool around them. And then I could go through my different menus to get to align and distribute. Unless I've set up a shortcut key for that specific function about distributing evenly with the spacing, I wouldn't have to go through the different menus because there's no shortcut key directly for that. But there's that button right up there that I just clicked that has the align and distribute functions when I have separate items that are objects within what I've selected. Once I've got that there, I can do my center, left, right, all those keystrokes that we talked about before and you had the menu for, but I have another tab here, which is the Distribute tab. The Distribute tab allows me to give distribution even between them. I can either choose left to left, right to right, spacing in between them, or from center to center of the object. So say I want to change the spacing so it's even between them. Once I hit apply on this, you'll notice that all of them have an even distribution space in between them. So I'll hit E key on those. I'll do the align also and do center on those. And now they're all aligned in the center and they're evenly distributed across. So if you've got a repeating pattern or some objects that you want evenly distributed along a line or along ellipse or anything, this is a really quick and easy way to do that I can distribute them and give that spacing between them based on either from the center, right, left, or however I want. Very powerful tool and something that will save you a lot of time. So we'll close that out for right now. If I have two objects that are grouped, if I take these two right here and I select both of them, I can hit my Control and G key, which will group it, and Control and U ungroup it. Once those two are grouped, if I'm going to center this ellipse and square and the square down here, I'll hold the Shift key to select everything on it, and then I do my C key, you'll notice it's centering with the middle of this whole group of objects up here. I could even add another object into that there. I'll add this one and hold the Shift and then Control G to group it like we talked about before. And now when I select the one below and hit the C key, you notice it moved everything over and now they're centered group to group, even though the bottom object is only one item. And you can see all these different groups in your Object Manager Docker. I can see that when I select this, I've got a group of two objects over here. And it's the two objects were first the ellipse and then another group of two objects because I grouped those ones first. So sometimes I'll be working with a person that's having trouble with Corel and they're not able to get things to center or to distribute evenly, and it's really driving them nuts, and they're not quite seeing what's going on. By opening up the Object Manager in here, we can take a look at what they've selected, and you'll notice it highlighted over here. It selected this here. If I just select on that portion there, the group of two objects, you notice it only went to these two on my screen. So it's another way that we can find where objects are, how they're grouped, and break them apart if we need to. I could right-click and ungroup this, right-click and ungroup, or again, you see the Control and the U. I could do that there. And once I've ungrouped it, now that group of two objects, they're separated there. Oh, I did something wrong there. Ungroup. There we go. And now they're broken apart. And you can see over here also on your Object Manager. This is also another place where we can add layers, so we can separate everything by layers. We can add more pages. We can control our graphics and have multiple functions to it. We're not going to really get too deep into the Object Manager today. This portion here, we're looking mostly for the distribution and the difference between group and ungroup objects and how you can work with those. So that gives you guys a little bit of an idea there. I have a pop-up window that's coming up. Sorry about that down there. So that's that portion of Corel Draw on the alignment tools. Let's go back over to our slides. The next portion we're going to talk about is color matching. We'll wait for this to update on your screen there. In color matching, we're working with a set of objects in there. We've got some sort of graphic, and we want to take all the yellow portions or red portions in the graphic and change their color over. So we need to be able to control the color, be able to pick the color, work with replacing them, and I'm going to show you some of the Smart Fill tool. So let's dig into those a little bit more. So now once we're into this, I've got some different colors. Let's go even further and pick a green here, and this one here we'll do a purple, and I'm going to make duplicates of this one. So we've got a bunch of different objects here that have different colors to them. And what I'm going to do with those colors is I can select, say, this one here. On my color docker off to the side here, again, to open any docker or close it, you go to Window, Dockers, and then you can pick the ones that you want open. And on this color one, it's simply the color docker down at the bottom right here. I would click on that. The check mark's already on it, so that tells me that it's already been selected. So I have my color right there. I can adjust this color. If I want to go to my color viewer here, and since I have the little lock right here, it auto applies the color to it. As I start moving around in here, we'll go to our fill portion, sorry. As I start moving around in here on it, you can see it update on the screen. I can even drag this one down to another color, and I can go right through my entire color spectrum and change anything that's on there. And that'll change the fill in the object. I can do the same with the outline. So I can pick my RGB palette, CMYK, whatever color spectrum I want to work in. I can also input directly in the color. If I wanted 100 right here and I hit enter, go down to the next one, you can see it's changed that color. It's accepted that value. So now I can quickly, if I've customers given me a specific color, this is the PMS colors, or they want an RGB, a certain value to it, I can change it to that, which is especially important for print options. But if we're trying to pick out different colors in a cut-only file that we're going to be doing, where we say have two different colors of lettering and then another object in the center of our design that has another color, we can use this function too to define what those colors are. But there are some easier ways for us to pull colors apart in an entire object. So that's our color docker over here and how we can work with it. If I didn't have this lock on there, then I can change where I'm at, and I can see the different color up over here. When I select the fill, then it changes it. It doesn't do it automatically for me. So a lot of times I'll leave it on the lock, and I can shift on the fly my colors and go right up through the spectrum if I wanted to. So we'll go back to a bluish color and leave it there. There we go. Now, if I wanted to, say, pick a color out of this blue, I want to make one of these purple squares over here. I want that to be the same blue color as is right here. I can go over to my eyedropper tool, this color eyedropper tool. And once I click on that, it opens up the little eyedropper icon for me. And I can select inside this blue here the color I want. Once I left click on that, it'll change to a paint bucket shaped tool. If I bring that paint bucket shaped tool over into the purple here and click on that, now it'll fill with that color. So it's a quick way for me if I only need one or two that I need to change in the design over to another color. I can do that by using my Smart Fill tool. Well, not Smart Fill tool, I'm sorry, the Color Eyedropper tool. So that's another way I can control color within it. My Color Palette Manager is probably my favorite and most powerful tool within here. With the Color Palette Manager tool, I've made a couple more squares here, and we'll put one that's kind of hiding behind this ellipse up here. And I've got all these different colors within my design here. I'll come over to my Color Palette Manager, which is wrong one, I'm sorry. The Color Styles tool is the one I'm looking for. Color Styles. And we've got all these different graphics right here. These different folders represent the different graphics I have, different Corel files that are open in the background, because we're going to be switching through to do a couple different projects. Under the Color Styles tool, really neat feature, I've got my entire graphic set up here. I can select everything on this screen right here and simply drag it over into this docker. And once I've got it in that docker and I let go, it'll come up with a list of all the colors and all the objects that I have in there. And now I want to change that magenta color, that purplish color that I have on there, and I want to change it across the entire selection there. I can right-click on this color, edit that color, and I want all those to go to a yellow. So I select yellow in my RGB palette that I'm working in, click OK, and all the different objects that were within that design are now changed over. So you've given a proof to a customer and they like the design and everything, but they decide that that purple color, now they need it yellow. An easy way to change it universally throughout the entire graphic is use my Color Styles docker, drag it over there, and I can select that and change it. And you have all the same functions you have in the color docker on the right when we go into edit color on this, we can pick the different mixers and models. I can go in and I can drag down to, if I want to go back into a greenish color now, and I can drag right through there, click OK, and it's going to change it throughout the entire graphic. It's that simple to change our colors over. Now, I mentioned the palettes that I'm working with. Corel X5 has a little different control on their color palette manager than is in X3 and X4 and earlier versions. Mostly in that it has added some color libraries, especially for those for the roll-in VersaCAM printers. It has the roll-in color system library integrated with it. So when I come into my color palette manager, again, any docker there, window, dockers, and then you can pick your docker that you want. And I can see all these different palettes that are here, and like say we'll go down to the bottom, the RGB palette right here. And that RGB palette, you'll notice that there's a little eyeball next to it. And that eyeball is open right now. So if I click on that, my RGB palette went away and no longer is available to me. If I click on it again, it opens up the RGB palette, and now I can use that in all my design work. So if I wanted to design in CMYK, I can click on that, opens up the CMYK, or if I wanted a particular Pantone color and they wanted GOE coded, I can click on that, and there's my GOE coded Pantone color palette. So especially important for those screen printers out there when you're picking a specific color and you want it to represent on your screen. You can use this to set up what palette you're going to be working in if your customer has one that they're calling for. So we'll turn that one off. So the color palette manager is where I open up and close my different color palettes. Now these color palettes, I could drag that out and have it open anywhere on the screen that I want. I can put it back to the side. You can really move these around and change where they set on the screen so you can customize your workspace. Last tool we're going to talk about in color matching is the Smart Fill tool. And the Smart Fill tool, let's zoom in on this again, is my little tool right over here on the toolbox. When I click on the Smart Fill tool, it opens up a dialog at the top of Corel there. And that dialog shows me my fill options. I can tell it if I want the default, I want to specify color, or no fill at all. So we'll do specify, and we're going to choose a color. And I'm going to go with, let's go down here, we'll go with this reddish, this peach kind of color right here. So I pick my color, and if I can choose if I want an outline color, how wide I want it to be. I don't want any outline colors, so I'll do no outline. And then I've got a different kind of crosshair that shows up on the screen when I get into my active workspace. We'll look at this little wedge that's right here next to the ellipse. That's part of that rectangle that was behind it. If I click inside there, my Smart Fill tool is going to find the edges of that object but not go past it. And it fills it right there. So when I go back to my Pick tool and select, if I move that aside, you can see that it only filled the portion that was showing right there and nothing else. So instead of having to do a weld and trim option, if I just need to fill a certain area with another color, I can do that. But realize it makes another object that is sitting on top of the object below it. But it's a very easy way if I've got a bunch of complex graphics and I need to fill a certain portion. Let's see if I can do a couple of these on top. And now I've set up my different items there, and I want to fill. We'll do our Control and Page Up, and that'll Shift and Page Up, and that'll bring that to the front. So I've got a very complex shape in here with this blue one. We'll change that color so you can see it a little bit better. This blue color, I now want to make a shape that fills that. So again, I'll go to my Smart Fill. I've got my options already set. I click inside there, and it fills inside of that shape, and I've got a custom shape created from that using my Smart Fill tool. So that's a couple ways we can use color matching and some of the fill and picker tools to be able to choose our colors, define our colors, and work with them in the palette. So we'll go back to our presentation here a little bit, and the next one up is Find and Replace. Find and Replace is a great tool to use when I need to pick out certain objects or items within a graphic. If I am, say, designing rhinestones, and we'll get rid of a bunch of these, delete that, and I'm doing a rhinestone design, and I need to have a bunch of circles here. We'll draw a few of them just so you can get the idea. Oops. Go to my Select, And I'll make a couple of copies here. When you're dragging it, if you right-click, it'll make a copy of that item there. So I can select all these, and I'll just make another set right here. Now this set here I had set up for blue rhinestones, and this set down here I have for yellow rhinestones. And I'll move a couple of them around so they're in spots that are a little bit harder. I'll zoom in on this so you guys can see it a little bit better. Well, now I want to just delete the yellow ones. I only want to work with the blue ones in here. So I can select my yellow one and go to Edit and down to Find and Replace. And I can tell it to either find objects or replace objects. Right now we'll show you find objects. If I click on find objects, I have several different ways I can search for it. And the easiest one I'm going to do right here is I want to find all the objects in this graphic that are exactly the same as this one here. So if I was looking for all the squares that were yellow, I could define anything that had that color, or I could have defined that it's an ellipse or same shape. On this one I want to find objects that match the currently selected object. When I click on Next, it tells me the different items, the different properties of that item I have right there. It's an ellipse, tells me the height and width of it, a uniform color, it has an outline, the width of that, everything about that object. And if I'm happy with that, yes, that's what I want, I click on Finish. And it opens up another bar here. It found another one within that graphic. Now I could use this to hit Find Next, and it'll keep cycling through the graphic until I found the exact one I want. Or in this instance, the example I've given here, I want to take all of them, and I want to delete them, or I want to change them and do something with it. I can click on Find All. And now that I have Find All, I can close my Find toolbar there, and you can see that it had selected all of them that were the same color properties of the one that I had selected before. So I can also do this with the Replace function. We'll move those back to where they were at. And I'm going to take this guy here, Edit, go to my Find and Replace, go to Replace Objects. I can replace a color, I can replace an outline, or text property or something like that. We'll go with color right now. We're going to go next on that, and I'm going to find the color. When I do my drop-down menu on here, I get that little eyedropper tool that I can go to, which makes things so convenient. I'll do the eyedropper tool, and I'll select the yellow. It sees the yellow there, and I want to change it over to red. So now it's going to be looking for all the yellow that's within there and change it over to red. When I click Finish, I tell it to find all, so I could do either one or all or however I wanted to do it. And when I hit Replace All, it's finished searching the page. It tells me it's done, and you can see it changed all of them over to red. So that's another way we can change our graphic. If I have specific objects or a color or something in there that I need to replace all the way across, it's a very fast and easy tool that we can change the way we do things and speed up our production and make Corel work for us rather than us working for Corel. That's our Find and Replace tool. So we'll come back to a presentation real quick here. I get asked about this one a lot. Somebody's working with a graphic, they've got a bitmap graphic and they need to mask it out. They're doing some web work, they've created their t-shirt and they've taken a photograph of it and it's got a background in there, but they want it to merge onto the document or on the web page so that it seems like it's kind of floating on that web page. And you can go out and you can buy a green screen and you can use Photoshop software, Photoshop or Corel Photo Paint, and select that one color, which we're going to do within Corel Draw and not in Corel Photo Paint. So let's take a look at this one and see how it works. And we'll close this graphic out and we're going to go on to the next one. And it's this guy right here. Handsome looking fellow on there. We've got our photograph here and we've got the blue background. Say this was a Euro oval that we're going to be putting onto a decal or something like that. Or like I said, we want to mask it and be able to put it on a web page, but we want that color of the web page to show through so it appears as though the garment that we're showcasing there for sale is kind of floating on the web page and you don't have this unsightly box going around it. So what we're going to use is our bitmap mask tool. And with the bitmap mask tool, I can select the graphic that I'm going to be working with. And now with that graphic selected, I'm going to pick a color. So I could use my color selector, that eyedropper tool that we work with a lot, and I'll select a color in there. I can even go down to my shirt and select that color there. And you see that showed up in my Docker here at the top as one of the colors. If I hit apply to that, it will try to remove that color. And it might be hard to see on the screen. There's little bitty dots down here that had dropped out. Well, I don't like that. I want it to be more of that. So I'll increase the tolerance here. I can go to 27 and hit apply, and you can see that the vast majority of my shirt is now gone and has been masked out. In reality, we're not going to get rid of the shirt like that, so let's change over the way we do this, and this is going to be more realistic to going on that web page to showcase our garment like I was talking about. Again, we'll use that eyedropper tool, and I'll select the white in the background. And now I'll set my tolerance maybe at 25. I can plug that right in, click on 25. And when I hit apply to this, now you can see it got a lot closer. But it took out some of the t-shirt down there, so maybe that wasn't all that I wanted it to do. And we'll have to play with our bitmap mask options. And it's a little high because it took out some of my teeth right there, but it didn't get quite the edge. So you can see how we can work with selecting the different whites in there, and maybe I want this white to stay down here, or maybe I need to take a look at my photograph and see if I can put an edge down there, because right there I'm cutting it in and I wanted to select that. But I can use the bitmap mask tool to take out a lot of the colors that are giving me issues. If I turn this up even higher, say to 38 or 44 and hit apply, you can see it took out even more, and it even took out some of my teeth there because it's still picking that white. So we're going to have to play with the tolerance on this until we find the right spot that it takes out most of it. Unfortunately, this photograph I picked, it's got the white t-shirt down there, so it's giving us issues. Maybe I could go in and I could bring that into Corel Photo Paint and change the color of the t-shirt, or the easier way to do it would be to make sure that my photograph has it clipped there so that there's not that color in that portion. But that's another way we can use the bitmap color mask to remove a background or work within our photographs. I can also click on Edit Bitmap. And when I go into Edit Bitmap, it'll bring up Corel Photo Paint for us. And it might take it a second here. And in Corel Photo Paint, I can apply some of the different masks, and it allows me a greater control over the whole graphic to be able to remove different colors in there and work with that. So we've got it here. Let me do this portion a little bit faster. And we're going to use our mask tool. So on the mask tool, I'll have the magic wand mask tool come out. And while I'm in there, I'll just simply click in the white background. It looks like the screen's delaying a little bit here, so I'll give it a second to catch up. And I'll select that portion there, and you can see by using the magic wand tool, I've taken that portion there and I can click on delete, and now that's gone. But what I want to do is I want to invert it because I've selected this portion here, so I'll invert, and that will select everything that's in this portion of the graphic that I want to keep. I'll press Control C, go back to my graphic here and hit Control V, and when I move it aside, you'll see that I've done a much better job of masking out what I wanted from that photograph. So sometimes the bitmap color mask will work for you, and sometimes it's better to go into Corel Photo Paint by using that simple Edit Bitmap button and having it come up, and using the magic mask tool in there to remove it out and copy and paste what I want back. So that way you can make a very quick graphic that you'll be able to, a photograph or JPEG that you're going to put onto the website or any other thing. If you're maybe doing sublimation and you want to remove a background just to have the rest of it onto a mug or a mouse pad, this is a great tool right within Corel Draw and Corel Photo Paint that you can do that with. So that is our bitmap masking and showing how to work with the tolerances and to get rid of different colors and have it ready for web or any print option. The next portion that we're going to go over is the text tools. We've only got a couple more left here. I got to watch the time a little bit. And on our text tools, let's take a look at a couple text options, and I'm going to show you some quick tricks. I got to close out my photo editor there. It still had that portion open. So we'll close out this one here. We're not going to save anything to it. With our text tools here, a question came across to me via email about text, and how do you arc text? How do you make it into an arch or have it kind of going around an ellipse or anything like that? And this one, what we're going to do is we're going to take that imprintables warehouse that's on the bottom there, and I'm going to have this become a Euro oval. So we'll take our ellipse right here, and we're going to go to Object Properties. I want the outline on that to be much thicker. So I'll pick something, let's give it a 1/4 inch around it. That's a little too thick, I think. Right about there. And I want this imprintables warehouse to go around the bottom of it, and then I'll put the imprintables in the center. So I'll pick my ellipse, and I can hit P. That'll put it to the center of the page, which it was already there. I can take the imprintables and click P, which is a shortcut to bring it to the center of the page. And that's a little too big for that, so I can hold the Shift key while I'm resizing it and bring it in so it fits the center there. So I've got imprintables there. But I want imprintables warehouse or maybe imprintables.com on the bottom. So we'll make this a little bit smaller so it'll kind of curve with it. And then I can take this text here and I want it to curve along the inside of this graphic. So since it's a text, I can go to my text and fit text to path. And I can select that I want it to come to on the inside here. And I know it's inverted right now. I'll select it right there. And once it's there, we'll flip it both ways. I've got my mirror text, and now I've got it on the inside of the curve there, and I can grab this red control tool right here and bring that down. And you'll see where it's got a little red line that comes up, and that red line tells me that it's centered on that portion down there. So now I've created a curved lettering on the inside of an object. It could be a square, it could be just a simple line that I fit that text to. So let's take that and we'll hit Control Z a couple times and bring this back out. Say I have a line in my design that I want it to go along. So I'll use my freehand tool and I'll just make a line that goes like that. Now I can select my text and tell it to, again, fit text to path. And then I select that path, and you can see how I can move it along that entire path and have it go along the edge of it. So it doesn't matter what the object is. I'll select right there, and maybe I want to stretch it out, so I'll hit my node tool, and I want the imprintables warehouse to stretch out a little bit more there. And you can see how it fits and goes right along that whole line there and follows along with it. So that's another way that I can have text go along and change the way it lays on a line or to an ellipse, a circle, rectangle, it doesn't matter, whatever I'm going up into. If I want to do a simple arch on it, though, it's kind of difficult to draw an arch or take a circle and then do a portion of that and this, and you get into too many steps on it. What we're going to do now, let's actually make a new page so you can see this a little bit easier. So I cut that out of there, and I'm going to put this into a new page, and we'll change the orientation here. Put this into the center of it so we can see it, and then F4, and we'll zoom out just a little bit. So now you guys can see this a lot better here. With this imprintables there, make it just a tad bigger. I want to do an arch with this. So what I'll use is my envelope tool in Corel Draw. Over in my toolbox here, there's the blend tool, but it's got that little triangle next to it. I'll click on that, and it opens up, and I've got the envelope tool. With that one here, now you can see it's got some nodes in there. I've got a little node here and one down here, all the different side nodes and everything. And you can see I've got some controls up there. And this preset is a rectangular one. There's all sorts of different presets that you can work with. The freehand, you can add some. If you want to go into putty or horizontal, vertical, all these different controls, and I highly recommend you play around and see what they do. Most of the time I'll be using rectangle and putty. Right here it tells me it's unconstrained mode, so I can take one node here and I can just pull it wherever I want, get some real funky effects to it if I wanted to. Or I can click on this node and I want to go to single arc mode. And single arc mode keeps everything proportional. You see how I can get a nice curve on there? So we'll put that one back. And again, I'll take this node and I'm going to go to single arc mode. But as I move this up, I'm going to hold down the Shift key as I do that. And you'll see how now it brings both the top and the bottom out together. So it constrains the two nodes that are end to end there and maintains the whole arch together with it. So we've got our single arc mode. And this time I'm going to hold down the Control key. And you can see how it holds those two together. and I get a perfect arch going across with my imprintables there, and everything is nice and even all the way across. So very, very quickly I can arch that around if I wanted to do that same Euro oval, and we'll make this a 4x6, which most Euro ovals are. And we've got it there, put it to the center of the page, take our imprintables, put that to the center of the page, and now we can change the size of this, and now I've got that curved in there, and I could have worked with my envelope tool to make that closer or further away from that. As I'm moving this also, as you move items around, if I hold the shift key down while I move it, it keeps it in alignment with horizontal or vertical wherever I was at, keeps it constrained to it. So I'll go up and I can constrain it right to the edge, and that's pretty close to how the curve is there. But you notice how this one curves the letters in with the envelope tool, whereas the fit text to path had them kind of angled out around it. So it just depends on the effect that you want to use in your graphics. A lot of times I'll go with the envelope tool rather than the fit text to path. So that's another way we can work with this. Now say I've got the same design here, and the last thing that we're going to look at is some of our power clip and pattern fills. And I want to add a fill to this object here. Well, adding a fill to that object, I can go over to my object properties and my fill, and I can choose to do a uniform fill, which would be any one of the colors. So we'll do a red. And I'm going to hit shift and page down on this graphic because it's in the front. So we'll hit page down, and now it's behind everything. So I just changed my layers with that, or where it's falling within the layer. Now I've got the imprintables on top, so I could change to the color. It's a uniform fill across there, or I can go to a fountain fill, and I can choose to have this a gradient in there. Maybe I want to go use my different fountain fill tools in there, and I want to go square fountain fill from the center to give it a different effect on that. I can choose the colors it's going to go to. My outside color is going to be yellow, and the inside is the white, or I want the inside to be a green. Now you can do any color combinations you want. You can even go advanced on this one, and I can tell it that I want more colors in there. I tell it a custom, and I want to have, we'll add another one here, and we'll make that one red, and we'll add another one here, and we're going to make that one blue. So we've got some pretty crazy colors in there. When we come back, now I've got a kaleidoscope on there that looks almost like a tie-dye type effect. So you can really see how you can change those around by playing around with these tools. One of my favorite ones in all this, though, is the pattern fill. I go back over to my fill type, and I pick the pattern fill. There's tons of patterns already in Corel that you can pick from. But if I find a great fill, or if I find a graphic that I want to add into that, I can go in here and I can actually go to my advanced portion, and I can tell it I want to load one. But I actually loaded one earlier, so we'll bring that in. I don't know if it should show on the screen here for us. It's kind of graphically intensive. And it's not going to let me get out of this either. It's trying to process all that. I should have picked a little bit lighter fill there. There it goes. And it's a wood pattern fill. I could have loaded this in. I've saved a graphic from the internet, or I've bought some graphics that are a different fill. And this is a wood pattern one. I can tell it what height and width I want it to be. Maybe I want it 2 inches wide by 2 inches wide. And this one happens to be what they call a tileable fill, so that the edges match up all the way across. And we do 2 by 2, and I hit OK. And now you'll see that there's a wood pattern fill in the background of this. So we can use bitmap patterns. So if I'm printing something, say, for sublimation, or I'm using one of the wide format printer cutters like a Roland Versacam, I can create some really cool effects within stuff and be able to produce this very quickly and easily. I wanted to show you one more thing in here. We are running a little short on time. If I wanted to power clip into that, if I say, let me go into one more graphic here. I've got this graphic here, and I've got an object. This is a picture that somebody's provided to you, and you want to power clip into an object. We want to make a wall graphic or a fat head. I've drawn an object around there, and my object is this line that's on here. And it can be any type of object. Maybe I'm doing just a circle. Let's make this a little bit easier. We'll delete that there, and we'll do a circle. And we just wanted to capture, for sublimation or the Versacams, we want to just capture his face inside of there. So we draw our circle, and that's where we want everything. I can select a picture, this picture right here, and I can go to my effects, power clip, and then place inside a container. It gives me this big arrow here. I select my container and click on that, and now you can see that that photograph has been clipped into that container. It's contained within it. It doesn't have to be a circle, square, or anything like that. It can be any type of object. I could even put that into text. So say I have a, we'll do a rectangle here, and we're going to do that fountain fill like we did before. And we'll go to advanced and pick out some colors. We'll do custom, and I'm going to, this one on the end, we'll do a yellow. We'll pick another one here that's going to be a greenish color, another one here that's red, and the one on the end we'll do is blue. So we've got this crazy fountain fill here, and I want to do great garment graphics. And we'll separate this out a little bit more, center them all up, make it much bigger than it is, go with a blockier font so I have a little bit more space to fill in here. So I'll go to my font and go to Arial Black, and I want to make sure that that graphic, that the colors that I'm going to be working with are behind it. So I'll take and expand this out a little bit, and now I can take that, go to my effects, power clip, place inside container, and then I'll pick the text, and you can see it's contained within there. So power clip's a great feature within Corel, a very powerful feature that we can do a lot of very neat effects with it. So we've talked about the pattern fills, applying it to text shapes, custom fills, and then adding some bitmap patterns. We are running short on time, so I'm actually into my last slide here. Wanted to remind everyone that the video will be posted afterwards. Please email me your questions after the class. If we're going to try to hit some of the questions here real quick, but if something hasn't been answered here or you have an idea or something, please feel free to email it to me, and I'll do my best to get back to you on that and give you the answers you're looking for. If you have an idea for a video, please also send that to me. If it's something that I can accommodate, I will. We do have another Corel Draw for VersaCAM users webinar coming up on June 30th. And it's not just for VersaCAM users. I think a lot of people out there, whether you're doing sublimation, screen printing, even just straight CAD cutting, there will be some things in there that you could get quite a bit out of. So don't feel that it's only for people out there with VersaCAMs. It's for everybody who wants to learn a little bit more about Corel and what it can do for you. So we'll go to our last slide, and maybe Nicole, you can bring up some of the questions that we have here. Maybe we have a minute or two.
We do. Well, we do have one question. They want to know, how did you find the complete list of controls when you were using Corel Draw?
Okay. What we did for the shortcut keys, I'll go up to my Tools, Customization. Then we're going to go to Commands, and over to this tab here that says Shortcut Keys. Is that updating real quick on your screen there, Nicole?
It is.
Okay. And once I go to Shortcut Keys there, I click on View All, and there's your entire list. And you can hit Print, and that'll print it out for you, and you've got a quick and easy reference guide.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. We have another one. They want to know, would you please repeat the steps about the remove the back of the picture?
Okay. We'll do that one real quick. Let's see. Hit Close here, Cancel. I think I may have gotten rid of that background of the picture. So we'll use the picture here, see if we can remove part of it. What we're going to be doing on this is, actually, I don't know if I'll have enough time to do that as a demonstration right now, because this is not a real good picture, and it'd be kind of detailed going into Corel Photo Paint to remove all that. So I would say please review the video. It'll be posted up tomorrow, and take a look at that portion of it.
Okay, I think I have about two more questions.
Another question that we can get to?
Yes. Is there a halftone feel?
Is there a what?
Halftone feel when you're showing the fill effects?
Yes, there is. If you're looking for, say, we'll create a new box here, and we've got that there, and you want to go into PostScript fills to do your halftones. Is it PostScript? No. PostScript, and I believe your halftones are in here. I'll have to double check on this one, but there is a halftone fields that you can get into. I will find out for that person and get back to them and see if we maybe can even make a little video to post up on that. But there is a way to get into your halftones on here.
Okay, and our final question is, how do you get your color docker on the left side of your screen?
The color docker on the left side of the screen. What you do for that is anytime you have a docker, say like our color docker is right here, I can pull this docker out. So if it defaulted and opened on the right side of the screen over here, you simply grab the edge of the tab right here on color, and I'll left click and I'll hold it and drag it out. So I could put these dockers anywhere I wanted to. I just find it very convenient to put them on the left and right sides to make it my setup a little bit better. And you saw when I did that kind of quick actually. Let's drag that back out. And once I get it over here, you can see it kind of snaps to that area and wants to fill it. So then I let go. I didn't have it quite far enough. So I'll take color and I'll drag it down into there. Come on. Let's drag it out. That was object properties. And I'll drag this one over to that, and now they're docked together and I have the two tabs. So it's just a matter of dragging it into the spot you want and working with it a little bit.
Okay, that looks like
all the questions for right now, Nicole?
Yes.
Okay. Again, my name is Stephen Jackson. And this was brought to you by Imprintables Warehouse and Great Garment Graphics. You can always visit us on the web at www.imprintables.com. You can contact us at 800-347-0068, or you can contact me directly at 518-630-6655. Or you can shoot me an email. Again, send me those questions and requests and everything, and I will try to get back to the individuals who asked questions that I wasn't able to get to here at stephen@imprintables.com. I appreciate everybody coming out and hope to see you all at the next session.